Hi everyone, today I want to talk to you about the power and usefulness of Vim search and replace. This will be mostly using Neovim, but all of the concepts are applicable to Vim as well. This is a continuation of an ongoing series. I've created a few videos earlier around things like Vim auto commands and other things. So check them out. I'll try to link them in the video description, as well as you should see them somewhere on top on the video. So let's start. First of all, why is search and replace so powerful and useful? Well, obviously, if you know other editors like VS Code or other ones, the basic search and replace in and of itself is pretty useful. You want to have a word and change it with something else. But once you start mixing things like regular expressions, capture groups, argument lists, and so on, it's becoming significantly more and more powerful. And you can essentially do a lot of editing operations much easier than in other editors. So we will look at things like using regular expressions, performing search and replace operation across multiple files, how to repeat them, how to change only in visual selections, and more. This will be a presentation mixed with a kind of a demo. So I'll try to show you all the things we talk about in action. So first, let's start by looking at how substitution or search and replace looks in Vim. So first we start by, as a number should be 1, first we start by range. So you can provide a range, and the range can be obviously range of lines, but you can also have things like visual selection or a dot that stands for a single line, current line, or a file which uses a % symbol. So that's how you tell Vim what is the range I use to perform substitution operation. The default range is current line. Then you use the S for substitute, and you use slash. By the way, those can be other symbols than slashes. This is very similar like sed. You cannot use pipe, if I remember, but you can use hash or other symbols if you don't like forward slashes. Then you have a substitution pattern, so search pattern, and this can be a string or a regex. And this string can also contain so-called atoms or operators that change the meaning of the search. Things like, do you want to search for case sensitive or insensitive, and others. We'll look at them later. Then you have replacement string or regex. So again, this makes it really flexible. You can search for a string and replace it also in not just a literal string, but you can also use regex to do it. Then the whole expression can be followed by various flags and an optional count. So flags, will also look at them, but that's kind of the anatomy of how the substitution works. So we drop to command line in Vim or Neovim, and then we type this search and replace command as here. One thing I want to point out that is really useful, you can set the option here, vim.opt.in command to split, and when you use search and replace on the file level, you will actually see a preview of what is going to be replaced, which is quite useful. So let's start with basics. First of all, we want to replace a string in a line. So by default, as I mentioned, dot represents current line, and then we do S, and then whatever we want to find and whatever we want to replace it with. Now, by default, what is going to happen, Vim will find the first occurrence of the string we want to replace, in this case old, and replace it with new, only on the current line. If we have more occurrences, then we would need to append G, so right here. So it means if we have 2 words, old, or 3 or more, and we want to change all of them on the current line, then we are appending G. By default, the search is case insensitive, meaning if old would be written with capital letters, then it would also find it. If you want to make it case sensitive, you can append this modifier /C, and this would make the whole search case sensitive. One more interesting option here is using the C. Remember, those are the flags that you can put after the search statement. And this makes it so that you need to confirm each replacement. This is quite useful if you, let's say, have multiple search strings in a line, but you only want to replace third one, for example. Then you can use the C option and make this process interactive. Okay, so let's get some Regex basics. I've published a video about using Regex. I'm gonna link it in video description. You should see it now on top here. But otherwise, just to get a very quickly kind of a Regex basics, I highly recommend this page, Regex 101. You can learn there how Regex works. There are some slight differences in how Neovim or Vim Regex engine works with the regular Regex engine, but for most part they are they can be ignored. So let's just talk about a few things. So first of all, we have things called character classes. So if you use the square braces and then put letters there or words, this will match either P or B in this case, and it could match all the words, also PLE or BLE. That's useful. We have so-called anchors. You can say, I want to match something that starts with the word apple, or I want to match a line that ends with the word pie. So those caret symbol and dollar, they are anchors where you can anchor your search. Now, in Vim, we have the whole bunch of atoms or various special modifiers that are very important to learn. So let's look at a few of them. First of all, a dot is an atom that stands for any single character. So you definitely have seen this symbol dot star. That means match 0 or more times any single character, including space or word character, doesn't matter, anything. So this is effectively matches the whole line. So the whole line will be matched with this. With the plus, you match 1 or more time. So first of all, you need to find actually your character. So plus is a little bit more safer. If you want to match, for the word old, like we've seen earlier, then you can actually do like old, and then dot plus, it will match all the characters, single characters after that. Capture group, we'll look at capture group in detail, but what it is enables you to essentially capture your search term, so you can later refer to it when you replace, which is really useful if you want to append or prepend something, or you don't want to repeat yourself by typing the same search term all the time. Now, those modifiers, they are just a few I've selected. You can read all about other modifiers in Vim documentation, but those are kind of useful that I find myself using all the time. So /W matches any word character. Word character means it's an actual letter. It's not a symbol like exclamation mark or underscore, but just a word character. So if you want to match a specific letter in the word, you can use this symbol. By the way, capital W would match any character, not only actual letter. /D matches a digit. /S matches a white space. /V is a very useful mode, which essentially makes it so that we don't need to escape all the special characters with backward slashes. We'll see this in action later. And /R matches a new line if you want to perform search and replace on multiple lines. One thing I want to point out is that all those atoms can be counted with curly braces and the number how many times. So if you want to, for example, match 5 spaces, you would do /S and then curly braces 5. All right, let's see at some examples. So what I'm gonna do, I'll guide you through those examples real quick, and then we're gonna open a test file and just play around with it. So now we are entering the territory which actually is really useful. So we've seen all those concepts, we learned briefly about certain things, but we want to make it useful. We don't want to just simply replace a word with something else. We want to make it much more useful. So for instance, this ampersand symbol stands for whatever we've searched. So if I search the word old, the ampersand will actually stand for the word old. So as I mentioned earlier, if you want to, let's say, search a word and then append a string to it, that's a very easy way to do it. And that uses something which is called capture group. Let's imagine we want to remove quotations from a word. We can actually find something in the line that starts from a quote. Then we use a capture group. Here I didn't use this very magic mode that I mentioned, and you notice that I have to escape braces here. So I find a text that starts from quotation, then contains anything in between, and ends with quotation. So it will match any words or anything, any string that has quotations on the left and right side. And then I'm using this /1, which is referring to my capture group 1. Whenever I use braces, I can have 2, 3, 4, and so on. So this essentially would not include the braces because they are not inside the capture group, but it would essentially take whatever it's in between braces and do the replace. This will look in detail when we do the kind of when I show you the file, the test file. I want to really briefly talk about those things. They are a little less known, but I find them extremely useful. So a simple use case. Imagine that you want to find something, that is between two words, but you don't want to replace those words. You want to replace the content, whatever is in between. So ZS and ZE are exactly those atoms that enable us to exclude whatever comes before the search term and whatever comes after the search term. Again, let me show you this in action. So I'm going to open an example file here, and this is just just a basic example, some things that we will work with. So first of all, we have this problem here that our once is misspelled. Instead of once is ONX. We can of course replace it very easily. So I'm going to use a shortcut called my shortcut called space and then capital S, which simply puts at the bottom of the screen colon %. Remember, it stands for a whole file, and substitute. And I could do this, like that, and then that would work. I don't have to put G because it's only once on every line. I hit enter, and we have replaced everything. However, we can do this a little differently. We can use the groups and anchors just to learn how to do this in a different way. So again, entering the same mode, and now I am going to actually start from the ON. So this little anchor says, okay, I want to find words that start with ON. And you can see here at the bottom, I have the replacement result, and at the top also highlighting what did I find. Now I am going to use ZS, and remember ZS stands for we are using patterns to find the position, but only include what comes after the match. So I found the ON, and then I am finding what comes after the match. Then I'm using the W atom to select single letter. So in this case, okay, I selected single letter, and then I am going to change this letter to C, fixing it. It's a little bit much to take if you don't know those things, but this is very useful, and once you start using it, you'll see how extremely practical this is. So let's go through this one more time. The little caret here stands for beginning, but let us maybe do this here. The little caret stands for beginning of the line, so anything that starts with capital O and N. Then we are using our atom ZS that says we are finding anything that stands from ON, but we're not including it. in the search result. And then we are saying essentially, oh, okay, then take the next letter, W, and then we're replacing this letter with C, essentially fixing our grammatical error. All right, let's do a little bit more complicated thing. So now we want to essentially replace this upon a time, something that is between once and between comma and say once and comma. So again, same, we are dropping to the command line here, and let me get my cheat sheet a little bit. So I'm gonna copy this command, it's a little lengthy. And once you find yourself using those commands more often, you will essentially have shortcuts and other things that I will show you later how you can do it. All right, so now you can see we have once upon a time here. We actually fixed this error, so we need to say once upon a time, and it highlighted this once. It didn't take it as a search. Then upon a, so upon whatever words are between once and time, and then I'm essentially substituting with ampersand whatever I was searching for, which is in our case upon a time. And then I'm inserting here a very long. And I notice that there's one space too much, so I can do this like that. So now we can do this like that. Again, it might be a bit confusing. Definitely there's new syntax to learn, but it took me a while to get a grasp of it and understand in which case I should use what. And now having a complicated replace is not really an issue. It really boosts productivity and saves time. All right, so let me just revert it real quick to where it was. We can close the file. Let's go back to the slides. Another very useful search and replace is search and replacing only in the selection. So far we've seen that we can either replace on the current line or we can replace in the whole file, but we might be interested only in replacing in a selected paragraph. We will see this in a second. Another interesting command that also does replace in a sense, but does different kinds of replace, is G. And G stands for global. And what it does, it executes a command on all lines that match the search pattern. So here with S, we are actually finding something and replacing it. Adding regex and capture groups makes it really flexible. But with G, we can find something and do something with it. Not only replace the value that we found, but actually execute arbitrary commands on the result. So let's see it in action again. So I'm gonna open the same file. And first of all, we want to replace something only in the selected text. So I'm doing VIP to visually select a paragraph. And the shortcut that I have for this command is space Control S. So it kind of drops me to the command line here, and you can see I have this % sign capital V, which allows me to replace only in this selection. Let's imagine that I want to replace a comma with a dot everywhere. So I can see now I can do this only in the selection. So when I hit enter, you can see that it's a selection. But for example, this comma here was not replaced. We only replaced in the selection. All right, so that was replacing in the selection. Let's see how the G command works. G command can delete empty lines quite easily. So we do G, we say match lines that start with space, essentially with nothing, and end with nothing. So you can see we have those highlighted blocks here, these green blocks. Those are all the matches. So we have selected lines that are empty, and then we do /D for delete. And once I hit it, you can see all the empty lines have been removed from the file. Very, very easy to do it. Now, the real power of this command is the ability to execute arbitrary keystrokes like you would normally do in normal mode. So that's why this word norm comes from. So let's try to do something like make all the lines, all the letters in the line capital. So the way I would do this normally, like here, I could do G, capital U, and then that enters in a Vim object, and then with dollar, I'm essentially replacing, not replacing, but changing line to capital letters till the end of the line. So we want to do the same for lines that contain a specific word. Let's see, we want to do G, then we are searching for the word bar. You see that this word bar here is there. And then I'm doing norm for normal mode. And then what we just did earlier. So G, capital U, and dollar, which represents find something, find lines that contain the word bar and take a whole line and make it capital. So as you expect, all the lines here are now capital. One important thing is how to negate the search pattern. So we've seen that G kind of searches for something, but I actually can change it. So let's go back, and instead of doing G, I can do the word V. So now it will change all the lines that do not contain the word bar. So you can see all the lines, only those 4 had the word bar in it. And now all the other lines has been changed into capital letters. So V essentially reverts the search criteria. So let's go back to the slides real quick. So that was how to match something inside the visual selection and how to use G. All right, so substitution can do a lot. And again, I encourage you to explore all of it. But there are cases where substitution becomes too much, becomes too complicated. Specifically, this case is when you search and replace on multiple lines. It's possible, but then you kind of spend time trying to craft exactly how it should be with various atoms and spaces counting. It's just becoming really tedious. That's where I believe macros come in. Macros are a separate topic. I'm going to record a separate video about macros. But really quickly, macros essentially enable you to record any keystrokes. That's it. So you record the keystrokes and then you play it back. And macros by design are line specific. So they will be executed on each line. There's much more to macros than that, but that's just a quick introduction. So in order to record the macro, we hit Q. Let me actually show you this. So let's say we want to record a macro that would change this letter here to something else. So I hit Q, and you see at the bottom I have the letter Q. Once I hit Q again, it says I'm recording to register named Q. Again, macros record to registers. I'll talk about registers a little bit more when I record a video about macros. But suffice to say that this is something that will be stored. All my keystrokes will be stored in register Q. All right, so whatever I type now, I am going to record as a macro. So maybe I want to delete this letter, actually delete all of this, and it says something like here upon a time. I can do escape, go back to the beginning of the line, and when I hit Q again, that means my macro is recorded, and now I can actually see it. So I'm going to show you the registries, and in the Q registry here you see that I have this XXX for deleting, then I going into insert mode, typing the word here, and then this comes from this is my backspace, which is essentially escape, and then some letters that are appended by the macro. All right, so how do we play it back? So the way to play it back, I have essentially a space QQ, which is doing the same as doing here. Q, and name of the register, and this will this will execute the macro. So let's do this like that. You can see here we change. Now, if I want to change on multiple lines, again I have a shortcut, space capital Q, and here it changes on all the lines. You can put numbers here and everything else. So as you can see, it's very similar to substitution or search and replace, but if you have multiple, like more complex edits on multiple lines, macros actually are quite good extension as a more maybe not sophisticated, but more a tool that is more useful for this multi-line complicated changes. So I would definitely encourage you to start from search and replace, and then if you feel that is becoming too complicated, then so reach out for macros. All right, let's look at some advanced use cases. So far, what we've done, we looked at performing changes in a single file. So we've had a single Markdown file, and we just worked with it, and we've done various changes. But Vim enables us to actually perform changes across multiple files, and we can use two methods for it. First will be args, and then next will be quick fix list with Vim grep. So let's look how it works. First of all, here, as you can see, I have 3 Markdown files. So I can show you this in my Ranger. I have example 1, 2, and 3. They have the same content, and there are 3 Markdown files. Let's imagine I want to change something in all of those files. First of all, I want to load them. And the way I can load them, I just type args and then start typing example. I can do this like that, file by file, example 2, example 3. Or I can do this by providing here a glob pattern, like we will do in the next example. So far, just load those 3 files. You can see, oh, I have to actually save all the files before I do this. Okay, now I've loaded it, and now I get into buffers. So, there you go. So I have those buffers here. I have those 3 files loaded in buffers. Those are buffers in Telescope. And this file we can actually remove. Let me do this again. Okay, now we have all those 3 buffers loaded. If you don't know what buffers are, I'll also make it like an introductory video, but those are essentially kind of like placeholders that holds your file. There are buffers, I think it's self-explanatory. You can see content of a buffer in a window, but then we have also kind of behind the scenes in the background, we have files loaded in those buffers. Okay, so now with the argdo command, I can actually perform changes. I can do this g, I can do all kinds of stuff to multiple files. So the concept is the same. We are going to perform similar changes like we did earlier, but they're going to be applied to all the files that are loaded in argdo. If you don't know which files are loaded, you can type args and it will show you at the bottom here. Those are 3 files, and this one in braces is currently loaded in a window. So let's see. So we can do argdo, and then we start with %, and then s. And let's say that we want to change maybe the word upon to, I don't know, a word. And then we want to do G for global, meaning that it will be if there are more words upon a single line, they will be changed. When we do this like that, and we hit enter, you can see that 11 substitution was made 3 times on each file. And here you can pull out Git, for example. I can see they are not yet changed, right? We don't have them yet in our Git repository. Why? Because they are not saved. You can see this little plus symbol means that we have modified the buffers, but none of those files has been saved. So we can, again, execute argdo. And then for all the argdos, we can do update, which actually sends like a save command. And now you can see each file has been updated. So that's 1. And now if we look at our Git, you can see that all the files are there and they were successfully changed. So I'm going to delete all those changes. And now let's use Vim grep. What argdo did, argdo enabled us to load various files, but Vim grep enables us to load files not by file name, but by file content. Vim grep is like grep, but it has this added benefit of loading files to something which is called quick fix list. So let's do this, Vim grep, and let's say again I want to, or maybe do something slightly different. I want to have here something which is unique. So unique, the word unique doesn't appear anywhere. So the word unique is in the example 3, and let's also do this in example 1. So we're just going to do the word unique. So we have 3 files essentially. Example 1 has the word unique. Example 2 doesn't have the word unique, and example 3 has the word unique. So when I load now things with Vim grep, I can say load them, find the word unique. Remember that's case insensitive by default. And then find this word unique in all the markdown files. And you can see that we have 1 of 2. So it loaded 2 files. Now, if you want to see what files has been loaded, we can use copen, which stands for quick fix list. That's again another topic for a new video. It's essentially like a very handy list containing all the changes. And we see that this list contains this word unique in example number 3. And if I go here again, example number 1, it takes me to the place unique. I have a plugin that makes this list a little bit more interactive, but otherwise that's just a quick fix list. So now we have 2 files loaded because we grepped for a specific content. And very similarly like argdo, I can do cfdo, which stands for quick fix list. And I can use, for example, the G command. And we are going to take this unique word and we are going to delete all the lines. And this time we're going to pipe it to update. So now you can see there were changes in 2 files and then the word unique is gone. And in our Git, we will see that example 3 is here. I'm not sure what's happening with example 2. Maybe example 2 already had it earlier. Yeah, example 2 was previously with the word unique in previous commit. So that's a little bit advanced scenarios working with multiple files, but they're not that difficult, right? It's just remembering a few commands, and you, of course, you can get help with Neovim about all those commands. All right. Here are a few useful key bindings that I find myself using all the time. I'm just going to quickly go through them. The no-HL search is a key binding that essentially, if I search for something, let's say word, you can see that this is highlighted and it stays highlighted. So I can do, in my case, it's comma space, which removes this highlight if I don't need it. Leader PA helps me to paste everything over the file. So I often paste the whole file content and replace it with something else. So that's helpful. Leader R is quite nice in context of changes. So when I do leader R, it kind of drops me down to this command line. So I don't have to type like, colon, percentage sign, S space V. It's not much typing, but with leader R, I'm essentially inside it and I can start typing already. So I don't have to remember all the syntax and type too much. As I mentioned, this leader SS, it's just a shortcut for, showing me replace and search on single line. And leader capital SS is doing the same for the whole file. This leader Control S gives me ability to start searching inside selection. And leader R would kind of get the highlight. So you can, for example, do like 3V, select some words. So maybe select those words. And when I do Control R, you can see that they appear at the bottom. I didn't have to copy them. They appeared at the bottom, and I can start changing them. So again, kind of like select text and Control R to change it. This leader X is quite nice pattern. So for example, I have this word, let's say word, and I do leader X, and I can start changing. So let's say to capital word. When I do escape and dot, it will, you see, I'm going down and doing like leader X, sorry, not leader X, dot. It changes the words in different lines. So just a wrapper around a regular command here. All right. We are almost at the end, and at the end I want to give you like a bonus. If you are confused, that's probably a good response, because there's a lot of new things, and I hope you see the usefulness and power of it. But if you already don't remember, all the atoms that we talked at the beginning, don't worry. You can use a program called Cheat, and you can create your own custom cheat sheet that you can call anytime from the command line. So for example, here, if I get out from Nvim, I have this program already installed, and I can do cheat, then C for color, and I named my cheat Nvim SR. When I do this, I see the content of the table. So this table is in gist here, that is linked in the presentation, and you can use something called external command. Again, I made a video about this. I will link this in the video description, and you can just pull the gist with curl right in the cheat sheet file that you're editing. So that's it for today. It was again a lot of content, but I think that's very, very useful and will make you a better programmer, better writer. Generally, it will improve your editing skills. There is a little bit of learning curve here. It's not, super easy or intuitive often, but once you've learned some of those terms and concepts and start practicing with them, you will see how quickly you will gain more proficiency in this often complex replace operations. All right, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and see you in next video.